You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello and welcome to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Thank you for joining us today. We're your hosts. My name is Marcy Davis, and my co-host is my trusty service dog, Whistle. And Whistle and I are so excited to have as our guest today, Bob Weatherwax, who along with his father, Rudd, was the original owner and trainer of Lassie. So I know how excited everyone must be about that because we're all huge fans of Lassie. So please come right back after these quick messages from our sponsors as we welcome Bob Weatherwax to the show.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Buster, you're telling me my dog food products can't go on your shelves?
That's right. Didn't pass one of my Petco certified nutrition checklists. Sorry, Wayne.
Who made these checklists?
Geniuses. Very smart guys.
Well, it's good enough for most grocery stores.
Do you see cheese puffs on my shelves? Mayonnaise? Soda pop?
No.
That's because I ain't running no grocery store, Wayne. Your pets will get better nutrition. I guarantee it. Petco, where healthy pets go.
Go to PetLifeRadio.com/Petco and get $6 off your order of $60 or more and up to 40% off hundreds of items at Petco. PetLifeRadio.com/Petco.
Dyson.
The new Dyson Animal Vacs are powerful bagless upright vacuums for homes with pets. Air muscle and radio root cyclone technology generates the strongest suction power to powerfully remove dust, dirt, and pet hair from the home or car. To order your Dyson Animal Vac, go to PetLifeRadio.com/Dyson. PetLifeRadio.com/Dyson to order your Dyson Animal Vac today.
Dyson. Music to your ears.
Coast to coast and around the world, it's All Behave with Arden Moore. Find out why cats and dogs do the things they do and get the latest buzz from wagging tongues and tails in Rin Tin Tinseltown. From famous pet experts and best-selling authors to television and movie stars, you'll get great tail-wagging pet tips and have a fur-flying fun time. All Behave with America's pet edutainer, Arden Moore. Every week on demand. This is the place for a special paparazzi treat. Only on PetLifeRadio.com. Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Whistle and I are thrilled to have as our guest today Bob Weatherwax. Hello, Bob, and welcome.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to talk with you.
Yeah, well, we're so thrilled that you could be with us today, and you have such a rich history. We have so many things to talk about.
Well, I'm here with my two dogs. One's a Cairn Terrier called Throttle, and the other guy's my collie called Hammer.
Oh, well, Whistle sends a big hello to them.
Okay.
So tell us, Bob, how did you get started in the movie business?
Well, I was kind of raised into it, you might say. My father was back working in the silent movies, and his father before him worked in movies too. And so after getting out of the Army, I went to work for him as his second assistant trainer on the Lassie show TV series.
Wow. And what did you do to prepare you to be a trainer?
Well, as a child, my father, he also, besides Lassie, he trained many other dogs and supplied them to the studios and worked them in movies. And so we had like 40 dogs when I was a kid, and I kind of maintained those dogs.
That's a big responsibility.
Well,
40 dogs?
A lot of work, too.
Yeah, that is a lot of work. Wow, that really is. So you say that it was your father and your grandfather. How did your dad really get into that? What was their first dog that broke into the business?
Well, my father had a little dog called Wiggles. They came from a working ranch in New Mexico, and Silver City, New Mexico, and he had a little dog. His father had a white collie called King that he taught to herd 450 Angora goats, and then my father picked up this little dog, Wiggles, and trained on him. His father didn't want to keep him. He says everything on the ranch must work, but he finally let my father have the little dog. And he used to train that little dog. And then they moved from New Mexico to Hollywood, and my father started doing stand-in work at the studios. You know, he'd go down there, a bunch of kids would wait outside, and if they needed extras or something to just walk-bys in the movies, they'd come out and pick kids. Well, my father thought it'd be a nice idea if he took this little dog with him, because it would give him a little foot up on everybody else, because they got a kid and a dog. And it worked, and he had a scene where he's supposed to be the delivery paper boy, and he delivers the paper, and instead of throwing the paper over, he gave it a little dog, and he'd already taught the little dog, went inside the house, and they told my father, says, we don't need you anymore, but we need the little dog for the interior shot. So meanwhile, and there was a man named Henry who was a prop man, and he saw my father's abilities, so he hired him, and for him, he trained Asta and did the Thin Man series with Myrna Loy and William Powell.
Yes,
then,
yes.
Yeah, he did those. Then he went on to do Daisy with Penny Sinkleton and Arthur Lake, the Daisy dogs in the Blondie series. And then he went and hung his own shingle, started training dogs and putting in pictures himself.
That's amazing. That's amazing to turn a career in like that, especially during that time when it was so new and innovative.
Oh, yes. He had a huge body of work. He did some of our gang comedies. He did Honda with and I did Big Jake with John Wayne. He had a big body of work.
Yeah. Oh, Big Jake with John Wayne. I love that movie, and I love that dog in that movie. It was a black dog?
Well, actually, he was a collie, and I tips and sprayed him. Tips and sprayed collie.
I wondered, because he looked like a collie, but I'd never seen a collie that color.
Well, when Dad did Hondo, he also used a collie, too. And he did the same thing. He had kind of dyed him up, but that tips and spray comes off. So I remember I had to do the river scene where he went in real dark, and he kind of came out a lot lighter.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think I heard that you have 42 years of experience making television and movies. Yes,
matter of fact, I did 300 and some episodes with my father's sister on the Lassie show. Then I assisted on the Magical Lassie, and into another pilot, which it did work. But I worked with him for a long time, and then I worked for another fellow after Lassie show ended, and then I decided to go in business for myself. So then I did the same as my father. I trained and furnished dogs and worked them in the motion pictures, mini shows, different shows.
That's wonderful. Well, I have to tell you, Lassie had such a huge impact on me as a little girl. Lassie was my first love. And I just, every Sunday night, sitting there watching her and having to get up there. And when the show would go off and the credits would run and Lassie would hold her little paw up, I'd love to go.
Yeah, my father taught that. He taught that for a great part. He wanted Lassie to be a little different than any other dog, so he decided he'd make that as kind of his signature pose.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was wonderful. I mean, as a little child, I just couldn't get enough of it. Lassie is one of the reasons why I was so interested in getting my own assistance dog and felt so comfortable with that, because of thinking about Lassie and the wonderful memories that Lassie gave to so many people. But especially personally for me, I am a huge Lassie fan.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. They'd say, well, geez, Bob, we grew up with Lassie. And I'd say, yes, so did I, literally.
Yeah. Only you had to do all the work around Lassie. I just got to sit there and oogle her on TV and see Lassie and want to touch and play with Lassie. But you had to do the work.
Yes. Well, my father used me as his little training boy. The dog would pick up the little boy by the arm and bring him to him. I was that little boy. If the dog had to kiss, he'd teach him to kiss on me, and I always had baby food in my face, because later on, when they learn the trick, you don't need the baby food anymore. But I always had this baby food all over me, and a lot of other stuff. I was his little training tool with a dog.
Wow, you were very tolerant. That's nice for a young man to be that cooperative. That's really awesome.
Well, we're talking 5 and 6. What choice do you have?
Still, that's pretty good. So, how did your dad actually find the first collie that became Lassie?
It was in lieu of a training bill. Another trainer, acquired this dog to stop him from chasing motorcycles. The owner said he couldn't stand it. The dog always ran up and down chasing motorcycles in his yard. So he gave him to a guy named Howard Pack. And Howard said he couldn't break him, but he was a friend of my father, so he came to my father and says, can you break this dog of chasing motorcycles? And my father, he couldn't break him either, so he said, well, I couldn't break him either. And the guy came to pick up the dog. He says, here's the thing. He says, just keep him in lieu of the $10 that we owe you for boarding, because the owner said it's more peaceful around his house without this collie. So Dad virtually got the dog for $10.
That's amazing. And when did your dad realize that the dog had talent?
Well, he really didn't. He had the dog, and MGM called one day, and they were making a movie called Lassie Come Home, and they had acquired their own collies from collie breeders. But this production manager knew my father very well. He knew of his ability to do good work, and he called and says, look, could you have a collie? Dad says, yeah, I have a collie. He says, well, just train him to do this river crossing. He says, because we know this other dog won't do it because we're having trouble with the other dog, period, and we're not satisfied with the way it works. So Dad went and taught him to do the river thing, and he swam across the river and happened to come out in front of a Technicolor camera. There were only 3 of them in those days. And it was supposed to be a black and white movie, but the river carried pals downstream, and Dad just kept working with him. And he came out by this color camera that they were testing, and he worked them and brought him up and continued the scene and had him struggle on the shore and all of that. And the director, Freddie Wilcox, says, well, he says, Pal swam in and Lassie swam out. We're going to reshoot the movie. And then when Louis B. Mayer saw how good it looked in color, he switched it to the color camera.
That's incredible.
And then Dad actually trained. Fortunately, in those days, it took quite a while to make movies. They do them much quicker today. But he actually trained per night for the next day's shot. So when he finished, when he went in, he had a fairly trained dog. When he came out, he had a very excellent trained dog.
That is magnificent. Wow. Well, and how did he really train? Like, how did he train that dog to go across the river?
Oh, well, he'd worked that out before. He didn't have a river to train it. He probably did it and we had a place called Hanson Dam. It was a lake by us, and they didn't care in those days. You could go do that stuff. And so Dad would go there, and he'd train him. Once you train him, it's the same thing with my movie, Lassie. I trained him in a little lake area. But once you do that, they'll come into the river. It doesn't matter. Water's water.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It just seems like that would be hard, but I guess once the dog is comfortable, then it's easy for them.
Come to you in command, and you have to teach them to swim, too. They just don't do that automatically. So you teach them to swim, and you teach them to come to you, and you know, you have control of them when they're swimming, so they're just not swimming anywhere. And once you do that, you can work at most any place.
So how many Lassie movies did you and your dad do?
I did 1 Lassie movie. My father did 7 at MGM. Then I assisted him in A Magical Lassie, and then another, it was a movie but made for TV. So I've done about 2 as his assistant, 1 by myself, and then, of course, I assisted him on the TV show for 10 years. But Dad had 7 at MGM. Lassie was the 4th highest grosser at MGM in the 40s, and believe me, Louis B. Mayer had more stars, like he used to brag. I have more stars working at MGM than there are in the sky. And he did. But Lassie ended up being the 4th highest grosser.
So Lassie was one of the brightest stars that he had. That's awesome.
It grossed him $268 million during the 40s, and that's quite a bit of money at any time. But then it was
it is.
Outrageous.
Yes, that's incredible. Wow. Well, I know I've had a feeling that there were a lot of Lassies, but I wasn't sure exactly how many that were actually done. How many dogs did you actually have serving as Lassie?
Well, we only used 1 dog at a time. We would have usually it was an upcoming dog that we were grooming to be Lassie. We'd take him on the set and use him for stand-in work, like an actor who somebody goes and stands in while they're lighting. And then maybe we'd break him in easy. Lassie would be doing all the work. But if they had a long run-through or something like that, just like an actors, John Wayne never did his long rides. He had a double. He went home. And the same thing with the dog. We'd run the apprentice dog over the hill. And that would break him in and let him do fun stuff. 1 dog that basically did all of the work.
Well, what would you say is your fondest memory of all your work in old Hollywood?
Oh, there's so much of it. I really can't put a finger on that one right now.
Anything
I had a dog called OJ that I loved, and I was very fond of him. My father always told me, he says, you'll train a lot of dogs, and you'll train them all to a good talent level, but he says you'll have that greatest dog you ever trained, and his, he said, was a dog called Wiggles, and mine was a dog called OJ, and he was just terrific.
And what kind of dog was OJ?
I got him out of the animal shelter. He was it said on the slip that he was half collie, half sheepdog. He looked to be that. There might have been something else in there too.
Oh.
But he's a big dog like a sheepdog with long hair, great disposition, great looks, And he was kind of wheat in color, and I did a lot of movies with him. He starred in so many TV shows. I mean, this dog had a body of work that was tremendous.
That's wonderful. Well, that certainly sounds like a fond memory. That sounds really nice. How long did you have OJ?
Oh, I had him till he lived to be about 13. Big dogs don't live quite as long as the little guys, but
that's a nice long life for a working dog.
Yes, well, I never worked him that. I'd retired him probably 2 years before he passed because I only worked him to a certain point.
Yeah. So how do you make a decision to retire an acting dog?
Well, you can see that he's starting to lose his physical abilities. And, and the older dogs, they get a little weak in the hind end. And, older people do too. Some of them have to have walkers, some of them have to have wheelchairs. And when you see a dog's having trouble doing his physical situations, then you have to retire him because, they don't build parts around dogs. They always have to be physical.
Yeah. I know retirement is nothing that I ever look forward to for myself or for my assistant's dogs, that's for sure.
No, it depends what you use them for, and if it's something easier, you can keep them going a lot longer. But, in movies, they have to be physical.
Yes, I can imagine. That's very physically demanding. Well, we are going to take just a quick break and hear some important messages from our sponsors. And we hope you'll come right back as we continue talking to Bob. And Bob is going to talk with us about some other projects that he's working on. So you'll want to come right back after these quick messages.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Every pet is unique. Maybe they're gray in the muzzle, yet young at heart. Maybe they're growing out of the puppy stage and into their paws and ears. Or maybe they're just trying to maintain a more girlish figure. At PetSmart, we have the right food for your pet at a great value for you. PetSmart. Be better together.
Go to PetLifeRadio.com/PetSmart and save up to 30% on toys, collars, leashes, PetSmart gift cards, treats, and more. Go to PetLifeRadio.com/PetSmart today.
Love your pets but wish their medications were a lot less expensive? They are at 1-800-PET-MEDS. You'll not only save on flea and heartworm medications, but on prescriptions for arthritis, incontinence, thyroid, and more. And you get fast service, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Plus, our licensed pharmacists ensure accuracy, monitor drug interaction, and more. See why over 5 million people have trusted their pet's health to 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. Call now or order online.
Go to PetMeds.com/work, WORK, to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more at PetMeds.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. And we're visiting today with Bob Weatherwax. And he's been sharing all kinds of wonderful memories and stories with us about all of his lengthy body of work in Hollywood. But you also, Bob, have a lot of other things going on that you're working on these days. And one of those is you're working on a memoir?
Yes, I'm writing a book about my life with Lassies, growing up with the Lassies. And also a lot about my father and how he started and where he came from, and it'll cover everything, along with great stories in movies of people I worked with and the people he worked with and the things that happened, along with some training tips too. But I mean, it's like one of the stories is one of my favorite. There was a show back in the old days called the Jimmy Dean Show, the Sausage Man.
Yes, I remember that show. Yes.
And so he wanted Lassie at the height of his fame in the '60s, and he wanted Lassie to appear on the show, and we went there. I accompanied my father as his assistant. We went there, and I remember this little girl looked at me and says, "Can I pet the dog?" She says, "Sir," she called me. I think I was 22. I looked around to see who she was talking to. That little girl was Patty Duke, and she was on the show, Tex Ritter. And anyway, I held the dog on my father said, I want to go talk to Jimmy Dean, because Jimmy wanted to talk to him. And Jimmy didn't know how to use the dog. He says, I want him on the show, but I really haven't figured out how we're going to incorporate him into the show. And there was this boon man. He works the boon, as you know, and holds the boon over so you hear all the sound and everything that's been spoken. And he said, I have this little Muppet thing. He said, it's a little dog. And he said, little Muppet can interact. So that was a good idea, so we did that. Lassie came up, and the Muppet talked to him. Lassie barked back. And it went over really well. And then they brought us back to do it again. And that man, with that Muppet, it was called Rolf. And that was Jim Henson.
Oh, my goodness.
I've always felt that we're kind of instrumental in getting his career rocking, so that was kind of cool.
Well, that is cool. It seems like you've had so many experiences like that where you've encountered and touched so many people. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I saw these people. They only see them after their successes, and they think overnight success. I saw a lot of people I saw Dolly Parton sing on a flatbed truck in like Indiana with the June bugs flying in and out of her mouth. She was performing with Porter Wagner at that time, and they didn't give her the stage. We had the main stage during the day. We were the feature act during the day on the stage, and then it was Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs at night. But she was just entertainment for people in line.
Isn't that something? And now look at her today.
Yes. Well, and Jim had his Muppets will go on forever.
Yes, they will. Yes, they are endeared to all of us. Yeah, that's so true. Gosh, well, you just have so many stories. I can't imagine just one memoir. You're going to need multiple books.
So many stories of people I worked with, and it's really great. I've had great memories from all these people, and I have many, many stories like that for, 42 years of making movies, along with some of my father's stories.
Yeah, I bet. I can only imagine. Well, I know that you created a YouTube video. Can you describe that for us?
Yes, that's about something that we involved ourselves in back in the 60s and stuff. My father had a thing where we used to tour with Lassie, and we would perform 20 minutes of his greatest feats. We'd do it on stage, and we performed at fairs, private venues, whatever. And we used to do dog shows, too. In those days, they didn't draw real well, so Lassie would come in and perform there to bring people in. But anyway, wherever we went, my father always wanted to... He wanted to do a hospital. It was something he was just had to do because, he came from nothing and he felt he had to pay back. So we'd have that put into our contract. And we'd take Lassie around and dog therapy, and take him to hospitals and stuff. And it was tough. It wasn't the most pleasant thing in the world, but the kids really loved it. And, we went to one hospital. I'll never forget it. And the woman says, well, before you show Lassie to the rest of the patients in here, the other children, we want to take you up here because we have a boy that's dying of leukemia. We don't know how much longer he's going to make it. And he went, and I remember it was hey. The dogs know it. He put his feet up. He was a very active dog, but he put his feet up like he's on eggs. And before we left, she told us he'd passed, but he's got to see the dog. And it wasn't easy for my father. He says, why do you do this? He says, because I'm a fortunate man. He says, I have to pay back. So
yeah, that's
his
beautiful.
Church, you might say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. That's really what life is all about, right? That we are all supposed to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then later on, when I had OJ, that great dog I spoke of, I did a movie called Skeezer, Dog with a Mission, and it was about a lady in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she was one of the first to ever introduce dogs into dog therapy into a hospital with children that had bad home lives. They had disturbed problems. Some of them were bedwetters. One boy hadn't spoken. He was 6 years of age, and the dog got him to speak and cured the other. And so I've been very familiar with that, and I would like to continue maybe starting something where I could teach people and what type of dog, mainly the disposition you need on the dog. Certain dogs are a little too hyper for it, and how to get the dog used to the things you're going to encounter, such as crutches, such as wheelchairs. You can't take that stuff for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts about that? Are you thinking about a teaching center?
That's what I was thinking. And but I'd also like to. Before that, I'd like to expand on that little 8-minute short I made, because that's what it's about. And I also incorporated with Temple Grandin, who's I think she's a professor at Colorado in animal husbandry. So, she does the autistic side of it. And those people, too. I've taken Lassie around autistic people with Alzheimer's. They might not even know who he was, but it didn't matter. They enjoyed it.
Oh, yes. Yes, I actually try to take Whistle myself, but I always try to take my retired dogs whenever there's an overlap and let my retired dogs go to the hospitals and nursing facilities because, like you said, it just has such an impact and the dogs are just so incredible. They know and they say so many things without saying a word. It's just so beautiful.
They do. I was worried about, he's one of our most hyper collies. I mean, he was wonderful to work because he never tired. But I thought, boy, I don't know if he's good to being in the hospital, but he knew it immediately. He just changed the whole mood.
Yeah. Well, what are your plans for lengthening the documentary?
Well, I'd hope that maybe somebody be interested in producing the rest of it. And maybe, Animal Planet could have it, or whoever would care to have something like that, and just go into more of what it is, and expanding maybe to an hour or an hour and a half over the 8 minutes. The 8 minutes is just kind of a tease to see if we can get interest.
Well, the 8 minutes is wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I thought it was really great. And I love the music that was on it as well.
Yes, that lady did that, wrote it for us. She came through my producer, Terry Thistlewaite, found her, and she just wrote that up, and it is good. She did it.
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, it was really nice. So I know we'll definitely put the address, the website address on our website so that our listeners can check that out on YouTube, because I think everyone will just love it.
That would be great. That would be great. And I also want to try to do seminars to talk to people where they can ask me about dog problems, how to train, hints on how to train a dog, because there's certain procedures that are just basic things you do. It's not so much showing them every trick, but it's making them understand a dog's learning capacity and how they pick things up and the right and wrong ways of doing things. So I'd like to do that too.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Do you have any speaking engagements right now, or you're just...
We're going to work on that. It's just something that came to mind, because I have so many people call and ask questions and stuff, and I usually give them the answers, and they'll call back and say that works. And I just, I've never thought about this stuff before anyway, to just do these things, Anyway, so I'd like to do that and help them as much as possible and show them when they have problems how to correct it.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, there's such a need for more assistance dogs out there. There's so many people with disabilities, and boy, I tell you, having a dog changed my life. I just want other people to experience that too, if they're interested in that, because it is such a wonderful gift, an amazing gift.
Whether it be for them to take them as a therapy dog, or just some people, most of the questions I get on my sites are people that just have their own dog, and for their own personal reasons, and either have a problem they can't solve, or they'd like to know how to further his education a little bit. So I help with that.
And how do people reach you? You said you have your own site. Do you want to share that with our listeners?
Yes, it's called Weatherwax Trained Dogs. And I have that site, and then I have my Facebook too. And so I have two sites you can reach.
Okay, awesome. And what is it on Facebook?
I don't know if it's on the same name or not. I actually don't run it. I have a lady in California that runs it for me. You might say I'm computer illiterate. I can work my TV, and I just have never gotten into the computer, so she does all my stuff for me.
Oh, that's great that you have somebody. That's perfect. You're so busy. I don't know when you'd have time to do that anyway.
Well, I'm really not that busy. I'm just, mainly what I'm doing right now is trying to put this book together. So that's the thing I'm doing now.
And do you have any idea of when the book may be coming out?
I don't know. We have to finish it and then take it to a publisher. And we still have about 2 or 3 chapters to do. And once we get that completed, then I'll put it out there and see if there's interest in it.
You mentioned Temple Grandin, and I know she was in the YouTube video that you did. How did you connect with Temple?
It's amazing. People will take my call. I really enjoyed her movie, and I enjoyed, what she's done. And so I just decided to get my girl that runs my site to send her an email, and she responded immediately.
I love that. I love it. It's amazing when you ask for something, you might really get it. I was going to say, how could somebody not respond to Lassie's trainer? There's no way.
Yeah, it's just, the dog, that dog has done a lot of things for the Weatherwaxes. I mean, I've been on the White House lawn with Lady Bird. This dog has taken me places that I could never go myself. They would never let me in. But I coattail the dog, you might say.
That's how I feel every day with my assistance dog, absolutely. Because people just can't resist, especially those gorgeous collies with Lassie's coat and everything was just so beautiful. How could you resist?
Well, all the first ladies have a theme of what they want to do when their husband's in office, and hers was Keep America Clean. And Lassie was actually the first on his shows before it became fashionable. He's always helping clean up the park with the ranger and picking up the things, putting them in the can. And so she decided her situation was Keep America Clean, clean America up. So she made him her campaign animal. And then we went there, we met with her and did some photos and so on and so forth. And so that's what he did there.
How fun. What other places come to mind that Lassie got you in that you didn't think you would have gotten in otherwise?
Oh, staying at Plaza Hotels, staying at some of the best hotels in New York. They just welcomed them on in, and just different places. Cape Kennedy, we shot there, places where most people can't even go. This dog was allowed to, because we'd be shooting movies, and they always approved, oh yeah, Lassie can come here and shoot. We're in the war room in Cape Kennedy, or Lompoc, and I don't even think you're supposed to be in there, without a top secret clearance, but there we are in the Lassie show. Looking Glass 1, which is a plane that goes up with the president, that has actually, I don't want to discuss what it can do, but a lot of stuff that we just got special permission to do.
That's remarkable. What an amazing career and adventure you've been on.
Yes, I tell you, it's been great. Especially when we did the Ranger format. We traveled all over the United States. We went to Williamsburg. We went to Merrimack Caverns where Jesse James used to hang out. We got to see all the Ranger format was good because it took us off the farm and allowed us to go to all these great places of history and interest.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like you have just been everywhere and done just about everything.
Yeah, there's a song like that. I've been everywhere, man. I used to think of that song because, I have.
Well, we are so happy that you came by to visit with us today, and we love hearing all your stories and all the other things that you're working on, and we can't wait to get a copy of your memoir. So you'll have to come back and visit with us again when that's available.
For sure. I love that.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, tell us again, Bob, your website for our listeners just to make sure that they got that.
I hope I'm right on it because I don't work it. It's Weatherwax Trained Dogs, and I'm not sure of the .com, but I guess it's .com, weatherwaxtraineddogs.com.
Yeah, and then if not, people can Google you.
It will refer you to my Facebook. It will probably refer you. One will refer you to the other.
Okay, awesome. Well, we will definitely be checking that out. And as I said, we will post the YouTube address for the video, for the 8-minute version. And we certainly hope that you get to expand that into a longer documentary. That would be awesome.
Yes, I'd like to do that. Let's see what Hammer wants. Hammer, where are you? Hammer.
All right.
There's Hammer saying hello to your dog. I woke him up. He was asleep. It took a minute to get his act together.
That's wonderful. Well, give Hammer a big hug and kiss for us.
Okay, you have a good day then.
Thank you so much. You too.
Okay, thank you, and I'll talk to you maybe at a later date.
Okay, I look forward to it. So we're out of time today. We could sit and talk to Bob forever, but unfortunately we're out of time, and we'd like to thank Bob for being with us and sharing all of his wonderful, magical stories. And we'd like to thank you, our listeners, for being with us, and of course our producers for making Working Like Dogs possible. So please keep those emails coming. Whistle and I love to get your emails, and you can reach us at Marcie, MARCIE, at PetLifeRadio.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can read our blog at WorkingLikeDogs.com. So thanks so much, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Take good care.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.